Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the third episode, the third edition of the Sports Misfits. I'm your host, Michael Asiffo. My partner in crime, Anika Coutier, could not make it to this episode of the Sports Misfits. However, he will be back. He'll always be back. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to go alone, and that's completely okay. Anyway, I am still a little bit frazzled, a little bit raw, a little bit perplexed, excited, all these emotions about the World Series. Game 7, what a Game 7 that was, went into extras. We're going to talk about that, but first we're going to have to plug the show. If you'd like to catch the Sports Misfits, you can do that a number of ways. You can catch us on the SoundCloud web app, whatever you call it nowadays, all you children and all you kids nowadays with your technology and stuff. SoundCloud.com/TheSportsMisfits. That's The Sports Misfits. You can also catch us on iTunes. Just search up The Sports Misfits. We should be one of the first links there. Remember, it's The Sports Misfits. If you forget with iTunes, I don't know if that's really a big issue, but just trust me on this one. Put The Sports Misfits. Don't forget the. If you'd like to catch us on Twitter, we got Twitter. It's at Sports Misfits, no the there, and you'll see our official page with our logo and stuff. If you'd like to catch me, you can do that at Michael Asiffo. That's MICHAELASIFFO. All one word, all lowercase. That's for Twitter and Instagram. Don't add me on Facebook because I will not accept your friend request. That's my personal stuff, not for you guys. However, we do have a Fan I Sports group. That's Fan-I Sports on Facebook and Fan-I Sports, Fan I Sports, whatever you'd like to call it. I call it Fan I Sports. Other people call it Fan-I. If you'd like to catch Fan I Sports, you can catch them on Twitter and on Instagram, as well as the aforementioned Facebook group, Fan-I Sports, like I've said before. Twitter and Instagram, all one word, all lowercase, Fan I Sports. My opinion, go with Facebook. But however you want to consume is however you want to consume. However you want to eat is however you want to eat. Can't really judge that. Anyway, let's get to sports. And the first sports topic is, after being down 3-1, after scaring the residents of Wrigleyville, after the people living in Chicago just didn't know what to do. But the Chicago Cubs are your World Series champions. What a game that was. Just an amazing Game 7. You had home runs. You had it's amazing because 8-7 was the scoreline. But you had Corey Kluber, who, if the Cleveland Indians won, was going to be their MVP. And you had Hendricks, who is just an amazing pitcher. Yet these guys maybe not so much Hendricks. Kluber did give up 4 earned. It's not exactly as cut dry as the pitching didn't live up to the billing. That's not true. Like Kyle Hendricks, it's weird because he had 4 2/3 of a pretty good ball, pretty solid ball. 1 earned run, 4 2/3, and then they sent it to John Lester. Aroldis Chapman, he basically nearly gave it up. And shout out to Rajai Davis, because Rajai Davis put his heart and soul in this Game 7. What a game Rajai Davis had. But I'm going to go back to my original point. The pitching, you expected better. Corey Kluber gives up 4 earned in 4 innings. Kyle Hendricks comes out, and the pitching, it turns into a shootout. Cleveland, they were playing the chase game from the word go. As soon as they went down 4, they had to basically chase. And from chasing, that's basically what happened. They scored 2 runs as soon as it goes to 4-1. They scored 2 runs in the 5th. And then Miller gives up a rare home run. And then Rajai Davis does what he does in the 8th. Obviously, a run comes in before then. You got a 6-6 game. And then, what wild 10th inning. Because Cleveland, they get that run back. Because it's 8-6, and Cleveland get that run back. And, Progressive Field is rocking by this point. But credit to the Cubs, they locked it down. And Chapman does pick up the win. Montgomery picks up the save, and your winners and new World Series champions for the first time in 108 years, literal generations, but at the expense of a collapse. And I think this is the way I think I should take it is that, the Cleveland Indians did not have two of their best pitchers in. Imagine if you're a Dodgers fan and someone tells you, okay, you're going to go into the playoffs, but we're going to take away Maeda and we're going to take away Rich Hill. That's basically what happened to the Cleveland Indians. You're not necessarily losing your best pitcher and your serviceable pitcher, but you're losing two key pieces. But with that being said, they were up 3-1. They had a chance to close it out, and they just did not do the job. First off, Game 5 is Game 5. Life happens. Everyone's allowed to lose one game. Game 5 is Game 5. And that game was tight Sunday. So it could have gone either way, but in the end, Chicago wins it. Okay, so you get that pass there. And then in Game 6, they just played extremely tight. That error in the outfield, obviously, was just not great. You had pitching was a bust. It wasn't great offensively as well. And you lose 9-3 in Game 6. Now you're on the verge of a collapse because you lost Game 5, you lost Game 6. Game 7, throw out all the other games. It's a winner-take-all game. And they played. They were chasing from the word go. From the first inning on, I mean, look at the box score. From the first inning on, Cleveland had to chase because they gave up that first run in the first inning, and then from there you chase. Dexter Fowler, in my opinion, really, really put the stamp on the game from the word go because you're forcing Cleveland to chase, and when you force a team to chase, very rarely does a team catch up and then overtake you. It's really hard, especially in the game of baseball, to just flip reverse and turn on the afterburners because it's not a game like basketball where momentum can really carry over into a situation. You see a pitch and you hit a pitch. It's not as much as people like to think it is a momentum game, and as much as it is mental. At the end of the day, it's not like basketball, soccer, where energy can feed into what you're doing. Energy does not feed into baseball and does not translate into baseball as well as, in my opinion, basketball, football, soccer, your motion sports. I feel bad for the Cleveland Indians, but at the same time, I don't, because when Cleveland was down 3-1, the Cavs were down 3-1, and they won. What was the first thing you heard? You heard jokes, you heard ridicule, and listen, it's fine. You're a sports fan. Like, come on. Let's all have some thick skin here. But it's kind of ironic now, isn't it, that their team was up 3-1 and then they collapsed. And let's treat it like it was. It was a collapse. They did collapse. The Cleveland Indians, as well as they played, and as much as I have a newfound, well, not really newfound, I've always had respect for Terry Francona since his Boston days, but a resurgence in my respect for Terry Francona and the way he managed his team. As much as all of that is warranted, Kipnis, Napoli, really like that kid Lindor, Carlos Santana, really like him as well. As much as all that they have going for them, like I said, I like the Cubs because the Cubs will just straight up, I call it back-legging pitches, where you basically sit on your front leg and you do a leg kick with the back leg and swing through and hit home runs. That's what the Cubs did. And the great thing about this victory is that the Cubs had to find a way to manufacture runs. They didn't always have to rely on the long ball. And I think the Jays especially, I think, like, when sitting here at the city of Toronto, the one parallel you see is that the Cubs changed their approach. And it's easier said than done, right? This is a game of professional baseball. It's easier said than done. But you saw the Cubs change up their approach to basically go small with it. And by small, I mean small ball. To go small and manufacture runs. And when you get a mistake over the plate, that's when you strike. And for 2 games at least, they really found a way to solve the Cleveland pitching, which was stymieing the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and for about 4 games, the Chicago Cubs. But for the first time in 108 years, the Chicago Cubs are now your World Series champions. They're the best team in the world. Well, technically, they're the best team in the world. I don't think there's going to be any Japanese teams that are going to say, hey, we're the best team in the world, or any Cuban teams are going to say any different. I don't know why I took it there, but I took it there. The World Series, exciting. It was pretty long. It was a late night. I'm not going to lie, came a little tired. And one of the things that I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I had the picture-in-picture going on everything. I had the picture-in-picture on the Raptors game. I went back and replayed the Montreal Canadiens. Already living in Toronto, I don't like the Montreal Canadiens. Now, when they traded my favorite player, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he's not my favorite player. My favorite player is PK Subban. For obvious reasons, this guy is a great player. But I cannot deny that right now, the Montreal Canadiens without PK Subban are on fire. Shea Weber can do no wrong. This guy has a plus 12, plus minus rating. Say what you will about plus minus, but at the end of the day, plus minus, there is some truth to it. The Canadiens have yet to lose in regulation. They are 9-0-1. 1 overtime loss, 10 games. They are off to possibly the best start in NHL history from a team if they can keep this up. The Montreal Canadiens right now are playing amazing. And they recently, obviously, we're talking about this because they gave Vancouver a beating at the hands of 3-0. And it felt close because of the score being 2-0 for the longest time. But when you really look at it and you saw the game, it really wasn't close. It wasn't in doubt. Carey Price was saving everything. And this is when people start to ask me on the bus, PK Subban, obviously your favorite player, was it time for him to go in Montreal? And my answer to that question is no. I don't think it was time for him to go in Montreal. I think that Weber and the defense are beneficiaries of, and I'm going to be the first person to say this, because Weber has been great. Let's not sugarcoat it. Weber's been great, and I don't know if you've noticed, but PK Subban in Nashville hasn't exactly lit the world up on fire. He's scoring, he's getting points, but Nashville is having a bad season to date. Now, there's time, obviously, but to date, Nashville's having a bad season. They recently just snapped I think, 4-game losing streak. Gotta go to corrections and clarifications for that one. But I think the issue is that how good are the Montreal Canadiens when they have an average goaltender in net? Because if you really look at the chances or quality scoring chances, the quality scoring chances have actually gone up. It's not like defensively they're shutting the door. The quality scoring chances have actually gone up. You know, Al Montoya, the Canadiens picked him up for about $1 million. He plays amazing in Carey Price's absence. And whenever Carey Price needs a breather, Al Montoya is having one of the best statistical seasons from a goalie to date. Because, again, it's been 10 games. But today, Al Montoya is having one of the best statistical seasons that we've seen from a goalie in a very long time. He's a backup, so if he keeps it up, I'm not going to say he's having the best statistical season. He's having the best season ever. It's like the Zach Britton complex. Zach Britton has a 0.5 ERA, but are you really going to say he's having the best season of a pitcher when he only has to pitch 50 innings a season? I don't know about that. But the point I'm trying to make is, what happens if Carey Price goes down and Al Montoya suddenly falls off a cliff in terms of production and in terms of what he's doing? He just has an emotional cliff or an emotional wall. How good are the Montreal Canadiens then? And I think we're seeing a mirage. I think a lot of people aren't really delving deep into this, is that the goaltending's been phenomenal. Like, not even good, not solid, not decent. It's been phenomenal. And so when I go on the bus and I have listeners of the podcast ask me, PK Subban, what's the deal with that? They let him go and they trade him, and now the Canadiens are good. Well, if you remember last season, PK Subban had to cover up for Mike Condon and Dustin Tokarski in net. He didn't have the luxury of Carey Price in net. And when he did have the luxury of Carey Price in net, the Canadiens went to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Canadiens went places. They weren't bad. So my question is, how good are the Montreal Canadiens when they don't have good goaltending? And I think that's a question that is kind of obvious for a lot of teams, is how good are you when you don't have good goaltending? And this is why goaltending is such a premium, because goaltending can make up for so many deficiencies. If your goaltender sucks, your defense looks like it sucks. But if your goaltender is great, then your defense looks great. No, and the thing about it is it goes hand in hand, and you can't really tell the difference. And this is the point I was making to Anikin last show, the show that we had the Jordan argument at. During the rundown, we were asking the same question about the Leafs. Leafs, defense or goalie, obviously in a different way, because the Leafs defensively are a horror show at times. But what you have is this complex and this complicated situation of, is Weber's obviously been scoring a lot and he's playing flawless hockey, but when you look at the quality scoring chances and you really look at the analytics and you look at yourself and you wonder, wait a second, what would have happened if Carey Price was healthy last year? Would everyone be pointing the finger at PK Subban? And I know it's convenient, I know it's easy, but just really look at it. I didn't want to turn this into a PK Subban defending contest because he's been horrible in Nashville. And, Peke Rinne can play too. So the Nashville Predators, their goalie is one of the best goalies in the world. Slight drop off in the last couple of years, but he's still one of the best goalies in the world. However, when you really take a look at it, you have to ask yourself, how good are the Canadiens without Carey Price or Al Montoya? If Al Montoya was Al Montoya and not Al Montoya, and get the difference? If Al Montoya was Al Montoya and not Al Montoya, how good are the Montreal Canadiens, really, in all seriousness? Anyway, let's shift focus from one part of Canada to another part of Canada, from Quebec to Ontario. And we're going to get into the world of the NBA. The Toronto Raptors are 3-1 so far. We haven't really had an opportunity to talk much Raptors because we've been talking about other basketball topics. Shout out to James Harden doing work for me in fantasy right now. But right now, the Toronto Raptors, 3-1. I don't know if it's a great 3-1. They had a really good game against Detroit. Cleveland, they showed me something. But the Denver game, they were up 19, blew the lead, and relied on a DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, Herculean effort to win that game. And then against Washington last night, as I had it picture in picture, not gonna lie, I love me some Dan Schulman, and I love me some baseball commentary, but Matt Devlin and Jack Armstrong were giving me life towards that fourth quarter, especially when by, I want to say, mid-fourth, Washington had it tied. The ebbs and flows of that game, I know it was just a regular season game, but that game was exciting, especially since you had such a duel between John Wall and DeMar DeRozan. Let's talk about DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan has been absolutely insane. Whatever is going on, whatever he did in the offseason, please show Terrence Ross. And I don't want to disparage Terrence Ross, but show Terrence Ross, or please show Pat what's going on, or Kyle, because he's been amazing. DeMar DeRozan has yet to score less than 30 points in a game. Let's just look at his numbers, shall we? Let's take a look at what DeMar DeRozan's been doing. So the first game, he goes and faces Detroit. Detroit, pretty good team. They made the playoffs last year. Winning record as well, for everyone who likes a rag on the East. Winning record, 8th seed. Go face Detroit. They win by a good score of 109-91. DeMar DeRozan's stat line. And I'm going to say for the following. Also, shout out to Tobias Harris, who's also doing good work for me in fantasy. DeMar DeRozan, and Jonas Valanciunas, shout out to him as well, because he's been playing great as well, proving that he's worth every single penny on that contract. But DeMar DeRozan, 40 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. The 1 assist in that stat line is pretty hilarious to me, but 40 points, 1 rebound, 40 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. He goes and faces Cleveland. in their 3-point loss, Kyrie Irving with a big bucket down the stretch. Big three. DeMar DeRozan stat line, 32 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Against Denver, the Herculean effort. He has 33, Kyle Lowry has 29. They combine. Really good second half from them. DeMar DeRozan, 33 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. DeMar DeRozan yesterday against Washington. Well, yesterday from the time we've recorded this. 40 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. And he was playing some defense too. Because against Denver, I'm not going to lie, there was a couple spots where DeMar DeRozan let up on his defensive effort at times, at least from what I can see. Not necessarily let up. Let up's not a good word, because let up implies that there was no effort there, but he got beaten on a couple defensive miscues, especially down the stretch when Denver made the game close and at one point took the lead. There were parts in that game where you could actually blame DeMar DeRozan for some defensive miscues. But that neither here or there. DeMar DeRozan, from the offensive perspective, has just been killing everything in sight. And the best part about this is there's only one game where he has actually shot less or worse. How do you say it? Worse than 50%. In fact, there are 2 games where he's shot over 60% from the field. So far, and it's early, he could very well, his production could just decline. I don't expect DeMar DeRozan to score 40 points a game. I expect him to score 20, 25. I don't expect 30, 40. I don't expect 30, 40 from him. But so far, DeMar DeRozan has just been taking over the game. And let's play a little fantasy general manager. If you have DeMar DeRozan doing what he's doing, and you have Jonas Valanciunas doing what he's doing, and Kyle Lowry contributing as well, because in this Washington game, Kyle Lowry shot a really good percentage, 18 points on 7 of 13 shooting. So he wasn't bad. Kyle Lowry contributes, DeMar DeRozan right now playing like the star, and then you have Jonas Valanciunas, really, really coming in there and providing a spark, 10.7 rebounds. Jonas Valanciunas at nights can be a 20-10 guy at nights. If Jones gives you 15-10, Kyle Lowry gives you 20 and 6, and DeMar DeRozan gives you 25 and 4 and 2, and Jonas gives you 18-10 or 15-10. How scary do the Raptors now become when you also add Jared Sullinger into the mix, right? Do the Raptors now have an opportunity to repeat what they did last year, and that's take Cleveland to 6? Now, to be fair, that Cleveland series was a bit of a rout, and we all knew who was going to win at the end of the day, and it was Cleveland. And then they go on to shock the world, or at least shock me, because Anikin was confident in it the entire time, and he'll tell you that because Anikin's Anikin. But how much more of a competition does it become? And I know we play this game every year. Who's going to overtake a LeBron-led team? But can the Raptors do it? Because I know the Raptors weren't getting much love down south, to the point where Boston was projected to be ahead of them. I don't know about that. But if the Raptors are playing like this from an offensive standpoint and figure it out defensively, I'm not going to lie, there's been a couple games defensively where I have not liked what they've done. But if the Raptors can figure it out defensively and keep this offensive production, they've shown that they can hang around with Cleveland, at least to a point. They are showing, from an offensive standpoint, they are a better team this year. Dwayne Casey will rein these guys in. They will play defense. There are guys on that team who remember what happened when they didn't play defense. They remember what happens when they let up on defensive effort, because then they end up getting swept by the Wizards. There are guys on that team who know the importance of defense, which means if the Raptors will get better on defense. Some way, somehow, they will get better on defense. If the Raptors play better on defense and they keep this offensive production, some way, somehow, they are a scary team. And they are potentially the team that overtakes Cleveland. Food for thought, guys. Food for thought. The Raptors. I know everyone's looking at Boston. There's been some Atlanta love for some reason. I love me some Dwight Howard. I think Dwight Howard doesn't suck. But I don't know about Atlanta. Boston's been the new sexy team, though, especially for a lot of people. The Bulls are a wild card team, but I think that people really, honestly, earnestly, really got to look at Toronto and really look at them as the second best team in the league, because that's what they are. They are the second best team in the league. Before we take the break, let's get into a couple quick topics before we head to the break. Jamie Vardy or Leicester City obviously have taken a step down. Remember, Leicester City winning last year was an anomaly. An anomaly. It's an anomaly that we have not seen in sports ever. I don't think ever. That's like, it's basically 1 year your Philadelphia 76ers go from 14th to winning the NBA championship. That's basically what Leicester City did last year. They were the Philadelphia 76ers of the league and turned it around. However, there's been cause for concern about Jamie Vardy's performance. Vardy, who's fresh off of a Euro Cup where the British side did not exactly live up to expectations, Vardy has come into the season ice cold. He's only scored 2 goals and has yet to score in Champions League. I've been waiting, and obviously being a Blues fan, Chelsea kind of takes precedent because this is my show. Too bad. But Vardy has really been struggling. And what's the key to his struggles? Why is Vardy struggling so mightily? To be honest, I don't really have an answer for that, because the way Jamie Vardy plays, and if anyone sees this, is basically what he does is he will pickpocket a person, and by pickpocket I mean he'll strip a guy and take the ball, and then he'll give somebody a left to right move, and then use his right foot to score. That's basically what Jamie Vardy does. He simplifies the game for himself. The reason why I think a lot of people like Jamie Vardy and would love to have Jamie Vardy on their team is because Jamie Vardy plays a brand where you don't really necessarily need to get him the ball for him to make an impact. He can go for a lot of, I'm going to use a basketball term here, he can go for a lot of loose balls in a way. He runs down those passes that a Ronaldo, and I don't want to disparage Ronaldo here because he really is a better talent, but a Ronaldo won't run down for. He really runs down some of those passes. He makes a defender work. He does all those things. And the way Jamie Vardy plays, he needs to do that to be effective. I don't know. From the Leicester games I've seen, it still looks like he kind of maintains that. It's weird to see. And they tried to, against Crystal Palace, take him out and see what they can do there. I think the whole thing is that Leicester City obviously was an anomaly. Maybe Jamie Vardy's season was an anomaly too. We're going to take the break now. When we come back, we'll get into the Fan Eye Rundown. Welcome back to the Sports Misfits. I'm the host, Michael Asiffo. My co-host, my partner in crime, the man, the myth, the legend, Anika Kutiang is not on the show. Dun 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 dun. Hey guys, can we get that soundtrack in the back? Actually, that sound, the one with the trumpets, the Price is Right trumpets. The dun 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 dun. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, guys, let's get into the Fan Eye Rundown. Okay, so first question. Does the playoff system in the NCAA help or hurt the system? Obviously, they're talking about football, the playoff system in football, where the top 4 teams play to win the national championship instead of before, where it was just a couple legs assigning the 2 best teams, and then you go from there. Yeah, it definitely, it's exciting football to watch, especially down the stretch. You have that element of suspense, you have that element of hushed breath, because Florida State and Texas A&M, and I mean, you can wrap a couple other teams in there as well, are really fighting for that 4th spot, because as we've seen, if you get that 4th spot, anything can happen. And I've made this argument lots of times. Just because somebody thinks this team is the best team doesn't necessarily mean they are the best team. It doesn't matter if you're a writer or whatever. Listen, college football writers are smart people. I'm not trying to say they're not. But I'm saying that you can't just always just look at Alabama and think that Alabama's the best team because they're killing teams by 40. You never know what happens when they get punched in the mouth or when they have to face adversity. And I think that a lot of times we like to make excuses for teams that are supposed to be better than other teams. Or we like to make excuses for teams that didn't necessarily beat the team, and we like to use the example of, oh, well, they just didn't play well. Well, no, maybe they're just not that good. And I think the playoff system allows us to see that. In fact, I would love to see an 18 playoff system where you'd have to play 3 games, but then you're starting to push it because the schedule is already rough already, and now you're gonna have to put the kids through an extra game. It's a little bit daunting to ask. So in a perfect world, if concussions and injuries wasn't a thing, I would love to see an 8 or 16 team playoff. One game you play and you advance, kind of like a tournament style, March Madness style. I think that would bring a lot of business that the players should get a piece of. And that's another thing we'll talk about maybe for another show, but the players should definitely get a piece of the business that is made from that. And by business, I mean cash, money. I'll let go. Guys in the back and told me to let go. But yes, it definitely helps. TFC, late game dramatics, late game theater. They nearly caused a brawl at the end with Altidore. Joe Finkel had to come in there and tell everybody to, what's the word in Italian, guys? Whatever. The point is, 2-0, 2 late goals, Altidore with 1, Toussaint Ricketts with the second. TFC is in the driver's seat to move on to the next round of the MLS Cup playoffs. How do you think they're going to do this Sunday going to New York? I think that New York's going to play pissed off. The idea is this. I don't want TFC to do, well, they got to score 3, so we're going to sit back and let them score 3. You don't want to play that game. You really don't want to play that game. You want to play the game of, we're going to treat this like it's a regular game, and we're going to play our game, and if we win, we win, and if we lose, at least it's not by 3 goals. They got to play the way they've been playing. Defensively, I will say this though. Yes, last week they had a really good game defensively, but the week before that and the week before that, they were a little leaky, which is really, really weird to say considering the fact that TFC this year has been very good defensively. Last year, they were a horror show. This year, they've been really good defensively. So, it'd be interesting to see in a situation where, the guys need to rely on the back 4. Well, technically speaking, it's a back 3, but they gotta rely on the back 3 to really help them out here. And let's add the midfield too, and the holding midfielders to really help them out. It'll be interesting to see in a situation where TFC is actually top 5 in defensively, how they fare against a very high-powered New York City offense to carry through to a win in a hostile environment on the road. I don't know if you've been seeing, but these MLS crowds, they're no joke. And shout out, I've witnessed TFC games. I've been right beside the drums with the Red Patch Boys, and I've seen what the Seattle Sounders can do when their team is good, and I've also seen the Portland Timbers, what they can do when they're good. That crowd can get insane. And you know what, I will say this, the green for the Portland Timbers, that green environment is just, it's a sight to see. You would not think of a MLS game being a bucket list game, but add this one to your bucket list. Go take in a Portland Timbers game. Go take in one. And go take in one preferably when the Portland Timbers are good, but go take in a Portland Timber game. They're pretty fun stuff. They're fun. Anyway, answer the question is, I don't want to see TFC fall into that trap of, well, we're just gonna let them play and hopefully they don't score 3 goals. No, you gotta play your game as well. So I'm excited if they come in with that mentality, because there is a possibility that they can not come in with that mentality and they can sit back and they could possibly blow it if they sit back. I think they gotta really, they gotta play with some discipline, with some structure, but at the same time they gotta play with their game. It's a hard dynamic to really go from there. Okay, second last question. So second last question, UFC-based questions for the last two. It's really shame we couldn't get any Bellator on the list. What do you make of Dana White's comments stating that Amanda Nunes will be one of Ronda Rousey's last fights? Listen, Ronda Rousey is a movie star. She's a great fighter, obviously. One of the more dominant female fighters of our generation. No one can take that away from her. And when she decides to really call it, 5 years from now, she'll be a UFC Hall of Famer. Although the UFC Hall of Fame is very reminiscent to the WWE Hall of Fame, where it's not really based on, it's based on merit. Yeah, it's a little better than WWE Hall of Fame, where it's based on merit, but it's also based on guys that Dana or the UFC like. So I'm not saying guys like Chris Lytle will be there, although Chris Lytle could fight. If you ever go watch a Chris Lytle fight, Chris Lytle could do it. But I'm saying that there are guys in there that if you really think about it, like the Hammer, Coleman, he's the first heavyweight champion ever, right? But is he really that much better, especially considering the fact that the last time, before he made his comeback, the last time we saw him, he got head kicked, and it was a picture-perfect knockout. Anyway, my point is this. With Ronda Rousey, let's stick to Ronda Rousey before we get into the UFC Hall of Fame and all its glory. Ronda Rousey is allowed to call it. She is allowed to go, and she has an out, unlike a lot of these girls, to go do movies, to go be a movie star. I just don't think that if her heart's... The problem is this. If her heart isn't in it, and her mind isn't in it, and she's just doing this as I'm going to do a last fight, and then I don't think she's going to beat Nunes that way. I think she's going to beat Nunes with the mentality of, I'm coming in to reclaim my belt, and I am a woman on fire, and I'm going to take my belt, and I'm going to come in here and run the table again, and destroy people again. If she has to come in with that mentality. If she doesn't, she's going to lose to Amanda Nunes. I don't think people realize how good Amanda Nunes is. She is a really good fighter. Absolutely great kickboxing. She's got those really good hands that they're not just powerful, but they crack you in the same spot over and over again. And her low kick is one of the best low kicks in that division. Now, Ronda Rousey can win this fight. A lot of people think Ronda Rousey will win this fight. But if Ronda Rousey comes in with that mentality, and there's another thing to this too, is that Ronda Rousey's camp has been down in the dumps lately. Travis Brown, obviously, with his loss to Velasquez, that he's still on that losing streak after leaving Albuquerque and the Jackson Wimbledon camp and going to train at Rousey's camp. I always said this: if you're gonna pick a camp, you gotta pick a camp in an obscure place. Like, for example, Roufusport, Milwaukee, Winklejohn, Albuquerque. You can't go to a camp in LA and expect results. Not all the time. Sometimes people can get grounded, and no matter where they are, if you want to be the best, you want to be the best. But there's so much around, and Ronda Rousey's camp really needs a victory here. So if Ronda Rousey comes in with that mentality of, oh, well, this is one of my last fights, she's going to get cracked. She's going to get cracked. And one of the things about her camp is they don't believe in kicking. So I don't think Ronda Rousey has learned. Okay, obviously she's learned to check kicks, but I don't think Ronda Rousey is going to be prepared for Amanda Nunes' low kick, because Amanda Nunes got that 1-2 low kick, one low kick as her 3 instead of that 1-2 and then a hook. She's got 1-2 low kick, and she does that repeatedly, and that might be something that stifles her. But now we're getting into technical jargons. I just think that for this fight, Ronda Rousey can't have the mentality of one of her last fights. But she is well within her rights to, I'm going to do this fight and leave. Last question. So, this week, Ferguson, Anyos, who wins? I like Tony Ferguson. I really like Tony Ferguson. I think he's a fantastic fighter. Anyone who can basically outlast Edson Barbosa, who can go in there with Edson Barbosa and really take him out, is, in my opinion, is a winner. I just don't think he's good enough yet to beat Dos Anjos. Rafael Dos Anjos, I know he lost to Alvarez, but Alvarez is actually really good. Alvarez is the equivalent, like, if there's a sports comparison I can make, I feel like Alvarez is the equivalent to Paul Pierce. He's not exactly your best fighter in a division. He's not your but he's your top 5. He can be your top 5 in any given year. And when the chips are down and you need a victory from him, he gives you a victory. Just like Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce was never the best player in the league, but he was definitely top 5 to top 10 in some years. And when you needed some buckets down the stretch, he provided those buckets. That's what Alvarez is. So, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. So with Rafael Dos Anjos losing, there's been a lot of stock that's been coming away from Rafael Dos Anjos. He is still the favorite in this fight, but a lot of people have their reservations about Dos Anjos because of that loss. I would say don't have him. I think he's better than Ferguson. I like Ferguson as a fighter. I really, really, really do. And Ferguson's on a hot streak. If you wanna use the argument of, well, he's on a hot streak and he's gonna continue the hot streak, I can listen to that argument. I just think as a fighter, I don't think Ferguson's gonna be prepared for that grapple. I call it like really, it's a high intensity grapple that Dos Anjos employs. He does not let up on his grappling. I think the only person I've seen with my eyes that can go like hold for hold in a sense with Dos Anjos when it comes to takedown defense, takedown submission, stuff like that, is Khabib Nurmagomedov, the guy, the eagle, the man that I basically went on a tirade about a couple weeks ago when we used to be called the Fat Eye Experience. However, my point is this: I don't think that Ferguson's gonna beat Dos Anjos. I really like him, but check out that fight this Saturday. It's a fight night too, so it's free. So if you want to check that out, go check it out. The UFC's been, on free television lately, they've been giving out some pretty good, solid fights with no title implications, but still pretty good, solid fights. Anyway, guys, that's the rundown. Let's get into corrections and clarifications. Okay, so I mentioned before something about the Montreal Canadiens and Shea Weber's stats, his stat line. Okay, so on the season, Weber, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points, and the clarification is this. So the mistake, I said he's a plus 12. Weber's actually a plus 14. With the win, he obviously got 2 more pluses. He got 2 more ticks at the plus column. So he's now plus 14. PK Subban is still a minus 6. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening to me talk for about an hour. Neekan's going to be back next week. Hopefully you guys are listening then. Remember, and this is a big thing for me, really, really, really support the iTunes. I'm really happy about the iTunes project going through. And make sure you listen to the Sports Misfits on iTunes as well as SoundCloud. And when our site comes back, be prepared for that one as well. Anyway, guys, take it easy. Peace.